Hey guys, it's me, Kim. How are you doing? I'm back with another video. I am here because you're a patron. And you're here because you're a patron. And that means that you support the work of For Harriet above and beyond watching the videos on YouTube. And I appreciate that so much. I am so paranoid because I have a new microphone. And I'm just so paranoid that it's not going to work or it's going to mess up and everything's going to be ruined. But I have faith that this is going to be great. So I decided, because my next video is going to be about Shrill from Hulu, the new show starring Aidy Bryant, and I love Lolly Adefope. I decided that I was going to talk about my body dysmorphia. So people have asked me to talk about this before, and I think this is just a good topic for here. When I was growing up, I never heard about black girls or black women having body image issues or having eating disorders. On Seventh Heaven and those shows, it was always depicted as a really thin white girl who had anorexia or bulimia or whatever. And I am glad that we are moving toward a space and a time where we recognize that this stuff is very, very widespread. And you know what I think has really underscored how widespread this stuff is? Instagram. But that's another topic. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I got, what do I have, how it was diagnosed, how it developed for me, and how I manage it now. So I am very cognizant of how my body looks. I already have foundation on. Obviously, these videos are where I put on my makeup. I have always been very cognizant, well, not always. From the time I was maybe 8, 9, 10, I've been very cognizant of how my body looks. And and at 30, I am still very cognizant. And it's not just, oh, I look at the mirror or I think about my body or I think about my weight once a day or whatever. I think it is an obsession for me. I think about my body and my weight and how I look all the time. All the time. Every meal, every snack, scrolling through Instagram, all the time. When I'm watching TV, it is a real obsession. Also, you can see how I look on Instagram. I don't really care about any followers or whatever anymore. I'm just doing me. But the way that I see myself and the way that I feel like my body looks is not the way that other people would perceive my body to look. I'm on a diet right now. I don't endorse that, but I feel big. I feel big and I want to be thinner, and that is the constant battle that I've been in since I was a child. And it arose for me, I think. So I developed early. I went into puberty really early. I started my period when I was 9. Whenever I think about that, it's just so crazy. Isn't it so crazy how weird things have happened to you, traumatic things have happened to you, and they're like normalized in your mind, and then you tell somebody and they're like, what? Or like you think about it in context and you're like, whoa, like that's crazy. But it is really crazy. That's a very early age to start your period if you're not a person with a uterus. It's very early. And my body started developing early, and from a young age, maybe like 7, 8, 9, I started to have to go to an endocrinologist with my mother. An endocrinologist is, did you Google it? It is a doctor that specializes in hormones, hormonal development. A pediatric endocrinologist specializes in hormones, hormonal development, something with puberty and development, something with hormones, because the endocrine system is hormones. So anyways, so my mom, when I was really young, saw that I was getting pubes and getting like little boobs, and also I was getting tall really early. So right now I'm 5 feet tall, but I've been 5 feet tall since I was like 10. Do you know any 10-year-olds? They're probably, if they're girls, they're probably not 5 feet tall. That was very, very tall. I was the tallest person in like 6th grade, you know? So like girls and boys. Really, really everything was just advanced for me. And, oh, and if you start developing early, this is just a random memory that I have, but I just remember being really young and having to get my hand an x-ray. And so, and you have to get them like periodically, and they x-ray your hand to make sure that the gaps in your phalanges, is that what these are called? Or is that just in your feet? I think that's phalanges. So as you are growing and developing, there are gaps. And by the time when your puberty is over, when you've stopped developing, those gaps are closed. So I always used to have to get x-rays to make sure that those gaps were not closed. Or to, I don't know, wait, why did I have to get it? I think they were trying to make sure that I wasn't gonna like, I think my mom was concerned that I was gonna be like full-blown sexualized woman when I was 9. I think that was her concern. And I think some of that concern had to do with her being real religious and, you know, girls are responsible for how people perceive them in the world and all of that. But also, yeah, it was freaking weird to be in full-blown puberty when you're 8 and 9. Like, that's weird. It's, I would not prefer, I wouldn't suggest it, is what I'll say. So, by the time I really figured out what was going on with my body, I was 9, and that was when, you know, I have really small boobs, but I have a very shapely lower body, and this was before, 20 years ago, this was before, you know, the big thighs, you know, curvy body revolution. So I noticed always that I had stuff going on that other people did not have. And it made me insecure. And there's one incident that I remember so clearly. At one point when I was about 9 or 10, my cousin and her children came to live with me, my mom, and my sister because we had room. My mom was marginally successful, and we had, you know, a big enough house, I guess, and they were going through a tough time. So we went from having 3 people in a home to like 7 people. It was crazy, and it was traumatic. But anyways, and I remember all of us kids were outside, and there was one other black family in our neighborhood, and I believe the youngest brother's name was Alex. And I was like in 4th grade at this time. And maybe Alex was in 5th or 6th grade, but he was so cute. And I like had a crush on him. And he had older brothers, and they all used to be in their garage lifting weights, you know? And I'm like, why are you in 6th grade lifting weights? You know, it's like little Bow Wow. Like, why are you little, you know, 12-year-olds trying to be pumped or whatever, ripped or whatever? And you know, we were just going back and forth and, you know, little kid stuff. You know how little kids be bickering? And I remember Alex, during one of those little bickering sessions, he was like, you're fat. And the thing is, I wasn't. There's nothing wrong with being fat. But I was maybe 4'10" and like 80 or 85 pounds. I just wasn't skinny. And skinny was the standard. And I just had big thighs and a big butt. I wasn't fat, ever. But the thing is, it's so funny that I've never been fat, and like there is no problem with being fat, but I think it's really important for me as a thin person who sees fat to be like, you're actually not fat, and like there are actually fat people in the world who have to deal with what it means to be fat, and I'm not that, so I cannot co-opt that struggle because it's in my mind. So anyways, that imprinted on me. And then you just get older, and people start 10, 11, 12, you know, middle schools, when people start pairing off. And I was already black in academically white settings, right? And I also, at that time, so the people I loved when I was a kid were Brandy, Janet Jackson, Beyonce. I also love Jennifer Lopez and Britney Spears. Everybody was thin there was no, you know, one thing I got to give Instagram is, at least Instagram and this new shift in culture gives people options. When I was coming of age, there were no options. Everybody was thin. And I particularly love Janet Jackson, went to Janet Jackson concert, loved Britney concerts. I mean, loved Britney, went to Britney concerts, you know, had the posters and all of that, and the t-shirts and the Janet t-shirts and all of that. And that was like during like All For You years, which was amazing. But they were not only thin, and Janet kind of has a body the way that I have a body, meaning, I mean, she got a boob job, but small frame and like big old butt. But Janet and Britney, I will say, probably not the best role models, because they were both obsessed with their bodies. Okay, it was such a big deal how much time they spent working out and how little they eat and what they do to maintain their bodies. And I loved them. I was obsessed with them. I loved Brandy. The first fan letter I ever wrote, back when people wrote fan letters, was to Brandy. But Brandy was skinny. Everybody was thin. And we didn't have diverse body types. We didn't even really have diverse ethnicities and whatever. I mean, not for real, not like we do now. So thin was the ideal. I was surrounded by thin suburban white girls. And the other thing is, like, when you recognize that attractiveness is related to romantic desirability, but that's not the only thing, right? It's also because you're the black girl. It's not because of your body that nobody wants to date you. It's because you're black and everybody else is white. So that, it all kind of commingles. And so I just had a huge problem. And people would constantly, when I was a kid, I'm supposed to be trying to put on makeup. I'm trying to do really light today because I got a facial, and I'm not trying to clog my pores. It's really not that serious. But the other thing is, people feel so entitled to make comments about your body. All people, black people, white people, because I was shapely, you know. Black people make comments about your thighs, make comments about your butt. White people make comments about your thighs, make comments about your butt. It's like, we've got to leave kids alone. It is so inappropriate. And now, let me just say, with my nieces, I nip that shit in the bud. We are not talking about, one of my cousins said something about my niece who is 6, like, ooh, look at those hips. She is fucking 6. I mean, it was a female cousin. She didn't mean anything by it. But we need to not be making comments about children's bodies. Stop that. It's inappropriate. So what do we have? I developed early. I had a shapely body that was outside of like the ideal or whatever. Gosh, you guys have to remember back in those Britney days when she was like obsessed with her 6-pack abs. It was so horrible. It was just awful. It was an awful time. And even when Beyonce, you know, and Destiny's Child came out and they had Bootylicious, and it was like, Beyonce, she kind of had a little bit of thighs, but everybody was still flat, perfectly flat stomach, and it was just hard. It was just a hard time. And then you're dealing with the emotions of being, you know, preteen. The other thing about puberty, of course, is you're going through highs and lows of your emotions. And I already told you that I have anxiety and depression. And so all that stuff commingled to make me a person who was obsessed with her body, obsessed with it. And not only am I obsessed with my body, but I'm also obsessed with food. It's a horrible, it's a horrible combination. So I have this obsession with my body. I think I'm fat. Everybody is making comments. Still to this day, people make comments. Don't do that. Don't do that. I beg people, you know, I love fashion. I just touched the mic. I'm sure that was some feedback. I love fashion. I love clothes. Please don't comment on people's bodies. Don't do that. People think that they are being complimentary and they think that you want it. Don't do that. People inadvertently trigger my dysmorphia all the time. Please, my God, stop it. But I also love food because I have anxiety, I have depression, I am addicted to sugar because of the serotonin that it releases, or the endorphins. Whatever chemical that sugar releases in your brain, I'm addicted to that shit. You know, when I was in college, they used to call me the Cookie Monster because I would sit and eat, I kid you not, 10 cookies at a time. That's not, I gained in college easily 15, 20 pounds. Here's the thing. I'm 5 feet tall. If I gain 5 pounds, there's a difference. If I gain 10 pounds, there's a difference. 15 pounds, you're seeing it. You're seeing it all. And so, I have always used food to comfort me and to feel better. But when I was in high school, I could manage it a little bit better because when you're in college, there's food all the time. There's so much food in college. And the other thing about college is there's a ton of food, and we also do so much socializing around food. So we would be in the dining hall for hours, you know, going back for seconds and thirds. And then you're stressed out and you're away from home. And also, as I've already talked about, my father was ill. So I was I was just eating and it would feel food makes me feel so good. I plan so much of my life around food. Not only that, it is so difficult for me to not eat everything. If there is something that I like, and if there's 20 cookies in front of me, it is so hard for me to not eat all 20 of those cookies. It's a real issue. And it's not just sweets. If there is a lasagna, it is so hard for me to not eat 5 pieces of lasagna. And I'm not even full. And I'm not even hungry. I'm eating it because the feeling of eating it makes me feel good. I have a food addiction, for real. But the thing about the food addiction, right, is it makes you feel good while you're doing it, while you're eating those 10 cookies. But after it, it's immediate depression. It's immediate shame. It's immediate depression. It's immediately like, this is why I'm fat. I'm never going to lose the weight. That's why I can't wear what I want to wear, because of that. And it's just a horrible, horrible cycle. It is just, you know, like, that is the thing that generally my life is great. I feel really good. I get up and do whatever I want every single day. But trying to manage the fact that I'm addicted to food and I plan my life around meals, and I have this body dysmorphia. I'm obsessed with my body. I'm obsessed with how big my thighs look. I'm obsessed with the cellulite. I'm obsessed with my stomach. I mean, it is just a never-ending cycle. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure if you don't have it, then there's no way to relate. But I don't know. I just feel like if you have a kid, you know, I'm sure that if you have a kid, you know, you're always wondering, like, what's my kid doing? Are they okay? Like, I hope they're not being bullied right now. For me, my obsession is I have a pair of pants that I want to fit into. I don't fit into them. In a couple months, it's going to be summer. Am I going to be able to wear the bikini that I want to wear? I think about it constantly. And a part of it is I have, you know, OCD, like those repetitive thoughts. A part of it is control. A part of it is control. I want to be in control of my body and what my body looks like and how other people perceive my body, and I'm out of control because I can't stop eating. It's just completely all-consuming. And I believe that one of the reasons why I'm so interested in talking about beauty and the construction of beauty and the consequences of that construction is because I recognize how much I have been impacted in so many ways by beauty, and also, like I've said over and over again, and I mean, so many people have already said this, but you know, beauty is a commodity. And another reason why I am obsessed with my body is because, you know, my body is the thing that I can control. Like, in theory, my body is the thing that I can control. There's so many things. I always say, you know, do what you can, do what you can. You can't change societal inequity, or we're working to change it collectively, but do what you can. And the things that I can do are work hard, do good work, and theoretically, what I should be able to do is be in control of my body. I've been so crazily out of control for so many years. I find that to be so frustrating. When we see Oprah, and Oprah is this incredibly famous woman. I mean, not only famous, but influential, because, you know, Kim Kardashian is famous too. But when we see Oprah as this incredibly influential woman and this billionaire and so successful, and the fact that this woman at 65 years old is still doing Weight Watchers, girl, I relate, right? Because in theory, you should, if you can control all this other stuff, then why can't you be in control of your body? Girl, I relate to that so much. And I do think that this is something that I'm going to be working through and working on forever. Now, how do I manage it and what do I do? So I do still plan my life around food because food makes me happy, but I don't know, I really can't even really give, I can tell you what I do, but I'm afraid to do it because it's still not the healthiest. Okay, well anyways, I am trying to, I do want to feel good in my body. So I do now try to exercise portion control. And not do it in like a, oh, we can only have half a cookie way. So, and the other thing is, diets are bad, but I do need to do something about my relationship with food and the way that I eat, because it's not healthy. You know, I'm not out here eating 20 apples. I'm out here eating 10 Krispy Kreme donuts or 20 I mean, you can't do that and live. You can't. You know, I'm out here eating chicken nuggets every day or French fries every day because that makes me feel good. You can't do that and have your limbs. So I have to, as I'm trying to figure out the body image stuff, and it's okay to have stretch marks, and it's okay to have cellulite, and it's okay to have a big butt and whatever, and you know, a little bit of a stomach, I'm also trying to balance it with like tapering off from all of that stuff, the saturated sugary stuff, fried stuff that my body craves. I mean, I've woken up in the middle of the night and said, oh, I have to eat a Snickers right now. I mean, that's nuts. I also have something, and I don't know, I've tried to work through this with my therapist. I don't know if it's related, but I also definitely have a thing where I eat in the middle of the night. Have you ever heard of this? I think it's a thing. So if I go to sleep around food, I will eat that food. There's like definitely a brain chemistry thing. There's definitely a brain chemistry thing, because I don't think that somebody with like normal, regular, healthy brain chemistry is like actually getting up in the middle of the night to eat food. I mean, I've eaten Pop-Tarts in the middle of the night. Like, it's, and it's like, and how do I do it? I'm not like sleepwalking. It's like, oh, I'll be eating Pop-Tarts right before bed, and I'll go to sleep, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll reach over and open a Pop-Tart in that like half sleep, half awake state and eat it. I've been doing this. I discovered it when I was in college. I would fall asleep next to a bag of chocolate pretzels and wake up and the chocolate pretzels would be gone. And I would remember eating them. I remember eating them the way that you remember going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, which is like not really. It's such a weird thing. I got issues, you guys. I've got some stuff going on here. So anyways, I really go to therapy. So I manage it. I think I'm much better about it now because overall I feel better about, and also when I feel better about my life, the dysmorphia plays less of a role. It's always there in the background, you know, like your operating system, like there are always programs running in the background, but it comes much more to the forefront when things are going bad, when I'm feeling bad or anxious. And so I go to therapy, and that is really helpful for me. And, you know, I do not like exercise, but I have found that it does help. Moving your body, I prefer to run. So walking, running, that actually does make me feel better because it releases the endorphins or serotonin. I get those things mixed up, but whatever chemicals in your brain that exercise releases, they're very helpful for me. And it also makes me feel good to know that I'm doing something good and positive for my body. People have asked me, what do I think my parents could have done differently? Because this really cemented itself in my life when I was a preteen and a teenager. It would have really helped to have parents who talked about our bodies as more than a liability. Like I said, I grew up in a very religious household, and as we all know by now, particularly in Christianity, but all of the Abrahamic religions, women's bodies are cover it up and be ashamed and don't let anybody see it and don't let anybody touch it. And I not only was not getting positive messages from the media that I was consuming, and I was a huge media consumer, huge on the internet really early, huge TV, huge magazines, but in my home, I was not getting positive messages, you know, particularly around early puberty and all of that. My mother did not ever talk to me about, like, your body is fine, this is okay, maybe you do look different, but that's not about, we just never had those conversations. And I think it would have been really good and important for there to be some early intervention in, okay, well, yeah, you look a little different, so let's talk about that, and how do you feel about that? And, you know, we didn't do those things, okay, 20 years ago. Or, you know, you might have, but it did not happen in my home, that's for sure. And that was very, very, and, you know, we didn't have really any conversations about anything serious in my home, so that's just another thing on the list. And more exposure, it would have been great, and I'm so glad now that hopefully for kids or for young girls that they feel like they have more mainstream exposure to different types of bodies, healthier conversations about bodies. You know, people have said before about how it's so unfortunate that so much of women's socialization in our conversations and our socializing is about our bodies, how much you hate your body, what you ate, what you didn't eat, how bad you feel about it. Are you on Weight Watchers? Are you on NutraSweet? So much of our day-to-day conversations in our lives revolves around how much we hate our bodies. And I think more people probably have dysmorphia than know it. They probably don't have it to the degree that I have it, but dysmorphia, I think, is the norm. And now that we have a culture where everybody is selling flat tummy teas and selling their fake bodies and all of that, it's very troubling that at the same time that we have these broader, more diverse images, we have even more access to images of women like, ooh, let me go to here's my gym selfie, and here's my ass selfie, and here's my flat tummy tea, and here's my appetite suppressant lolly. Like, we're in such a fucked up, like, clusterfuck right now. It is, I don't even know. I would love to talk to some girls about how they're dealing with it, because how could you, on the one hand, you've got this great stuff opened up, and on the other hand, it's like worse than ever before. So I don't know, if you got kids, I do not envy you at all, because also the other thing is, at least when I was a kid, at some point in the day, you turned off the TV, you couldn't take your computer with you, so you had to step away from the computer. I mean, we were away from it. But if you're a kid now, you are connected to it all the time. So, I don't know, I would be really interested in seeing some data about body image issues and dysmorphia in teenage girls now, because I don't know, how the hell are you dealing with it? I don't know what messages, or maybe I'm projecting, maybe they're fine, I don't know. But I don't think I have anything more to say about my dysmorphia. I think I'm fat, but I'm not fat. I'm a small woman. I'm pretty small. I know I'm not fat, but I feel fat. But you can't say you're fat because I'm not fat, and that's offensive to actual fat people. You know, and fat isn't even bad, right? So, like, that's my own fat phobia, right? Oh, what if you were fat? So, who cares? Fat is not bad. Fat is just an identity, but you don't have that identity. It's just, it's hard. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to put on my lipstick off camera. See you next video. Bye.